And coming up this week, I explain why we can't always meet the climbing restrictions leaving at DFW Airport. I get much better sleep now as my airline has put these mattress pads in the premium cabins on long haul flights. And I do some real estate shopping in Narita. Yeah, that's an American house next to the highway in Japan. All right, let's get started.
I very rarely get a choice in where I fly for the most part. And I had a choice this week, today, between London and Narita. Hello, my name is Darren. I'm a dad. I'm an airline pilot. I'm a husband of a scientist. Monday, November 17th. It is 8:27 a.m. My sign-in time is 9:20 a.m. I live close to the airport, but we're delayed. Didn't really matter. So I was this month I was supposed to go to London 4 times. All 3-day trips, 29-hour overnights, Dallas, London, London, Dallas, and done. I'm junior, that's what I get, and I'm fine with it. But I'm always looking to trade my trips. Well, um, I'm limited by multiple things about how much I can fly. The FAA and the company both limit me in various ways. The FAA is the most restrictive in that I can only fly 100 hours every 28 days. Now, that is, parking brake off to parking brake on, keeping it simple. At taxiing time, that counts. Now, the company limits me by how much credit I can get depending on the month because they want to make sure I don't fly 100 hours a month for the first 10 months of the year, and then I can't fly the last 2 months of the year during the holidays, right? So they have this limit, they go up and down, called Vmax. Doesn't really matter, but it's a number, right? My Vmax number for November is 92 hours. I cannot get a normal credit trip above that. There's ways to fly above it called premium, but let's keep it simple. Now, as a pilot, I want to work efficiently, and I want to get paid as much as I can for as little work as possible. That's what all pilots want to do, right? So I saw it, and a normal London trip pays 19 hours and 30 minutes, average. There was a trip this week that I was supposed to go today. That was a 5-day trip. Day 1 was a deadhead to Boston in the evening. That's today. Day 2 is Boston to London. Day 3 is a 29-hour overnight. And then day 4, you fly London back to Boston, get there same day. And then you're supposed to deadhead home on day 5. That trip credited 26 hours and 15 minutes. The actual flying time was 14 hours and 15 minutes. So I got more credit than flying. But there's caveats, right? The deadhead, it's a 3.5, almost 4-hour deadhead to Boston each way. I had an 18-hour overnight in Boston the first night, and then on the end, it's like a 14-hour overnight in Boston. Boston's cool, but, Anyways, for whatever reason, I have no idea why, the FO position and the one of the relief pilot positions, I think actually both of them, opened up on this trip to Narita. And today is Monday. I saw it on, I believe, Saturday afternoon. Yeah, heavy Saturday afternoon. And I'm like, this Narita trip, which I'm going on, pays 25 hours and 55 minutes. It's a 3-day trip for pilot crew. I supposed to leave at 10:20 on Monday, get back around 2 in the afternoon on Wednesday. Now, this is all flying. All the credit and flying is the same. So it's 25 hours and 55 minutes of flying and credit combined. That can start limiting me about how much I can fly even next month due to the rolling 28-day, 100-hour limit from the FAA. So I had to think about it. Do I want to bid into Narita? And it's all hard flying. I love Narita, but it is a longer flight, longer trip. Longer time on the airplane. But I get done on Wednesday instead of, in theory, on Friday. Now, in all reality, the London to Boston flight gets in early enough that there's one flight at my airline I can deadhead home the same day, Boston to Dallas. It'd be an incredibly long day, but it could be done, and that's what I was planning on doing anyway. So I would have been home on Thursday night if I had taken the Boston trip. Or again, I come home Wednesday afternoon and keep this trip. So I pondered it, and I did post it on my Facebook and my Instagram, and 99.9 or 99% people saying go to Narita, not London and Boston. So talked to my wife about it. I'm like, because again, I could have had all day at home today, annoying my wife, and I could have seen my kids, and I think go home from school for a few minutes before heading to the airport to go to. I had dinner probably, and head to the airport to go to Boston, or I can go see my kids this morning for breakfast, which I did, and go to Narita. So there's perks to both, right? Um, and yes, I could. Someone's going to type in the comments. I'll type it now. Yes, because this flight from Boston to London leaves late in the day, I could have risked it, and traveled on my own time tomorrow to Boston to then fly to London. But that'd be, in my eyes, it's irresponsible. Flying up that same day to then cross an ocean, I want proper rest to make sure I'm fully rested to go over the ocean to make sure that I am at my peak when I'm flying over the ocean, people in the back of the airplane. So I was never going to do that. Coming home, different story. So yes, I am going to Narita today. It is. I didn't know. I had switched between the FO and FB and even FC. I think FO and FB were open initially, and then FC opened up after I traded into FO. But I thought, do I want to be the relief pilot or the flying pilot? Perks to both. Um, I've had 50-50 lately. My last trip to Korea, I was a relief pilot, FB. I want a landing, and going to Narita, the flying pilots will take the last break before landing. So you are sleeping, resting. I'll be sleeping. They come up front and then land the airplane. So you're very refreshed, and then you're a little bit more refreshed if you want to go out in Narita the same night. Versus the relief pilots will be up front for the last 3-4 hours, and then they'll be not as rested as I would be as a flying pilot. Again, there's perks to both, but I did choose to be the first officer. Now I said, as far as this trip goes, supposed to leave at 10:20 this morning for reasons that I do not understand why. We were delayed this morning while I was eating breakfast, delayed till 11:45. The plane is coming in from Narita that was also delayed. So it's unfortunate, but it's beyond my control. I only fly the airplane. So gotta head to the airport. And my report time, so my report time doesn't change. And that's when my duty day starts. My report time and duty day start at 9:20 a.m. Why? Why, Darren? Why can't we move your report time later? Great question, Darren. Because there's always a chance they can find an airplane, mostly in the narrow body, but they keep it simple, that we can move the departure time up some. So, we have spare airplanes. They could have one ready to go earlier, but they want us there at our original report time. Now, if it is a drastic delay, like an 8-9 hour delay, then they might call us, attempt to contact us, and say, hey, do not come to the airport. You're delayed to this time. Your new report time is X. This is only an hour and 20-minute, 5-minute delay, so they're not going to call me for that. And, in theory, I could call them and say, hey, this is First Officer Bird. I'm going to be late coming in because it was delayed. I live 10 miles from the airport. I'd be sitting at home. I just finished Red Dead Redemption 2 this morning. My games are done. Great game, by the way. I just got into it with Game Pass. So I'll go to the airport. I do have some work to do on the computer anyway. I got to edit a video for this week, and I need to do some computer work. We bought a car this weekend. Texas offers a $2,500 rebate if you buy an electric car, or you buy a plug-in hybrid. So I'm going to do that this morning, keep myself productive. In case you wanted to know why I'm going to the airport early. But as you can see from the background, I'm already on the airport property. It's 8:36 a.m. I am very early. I like being early. I don't like rushing. So let's park the car, find a good spot, get on a sketchy employee bus, and head inside the airport and get this trip started. All right. And I will say they have done a little bit of patchwork as far as the airport on this road. This corner is better. So airport, if you follow me and watch this video, it's getting a little bit better. Still rocky. I didn't record that part. Still a little bit of craziness. Your administration parking lot is butter smooth. Just saying. All right.
So after another interesting ride on the employee bus, I arrived at Terminal D and headed inside. I was able to clear KCM just fine this time and then report for work. I use an app on my phone or my company EFB to report that I'm actually at the airport. It uses GPS to make sure I'm being honest. 8:58 a.m. I'm able to swipe in and press the red button that I am signing in for my trip and I am fit for duty. Now, when I sign in for the trip, I get notified of how many hours and landings everyone on the crew has, including myself. The company only gives me credit for half the trip for a 4 pilot crew, or 2/3 of the trip for a 3 pilot crew, or the whole trip if I'm doing a 2 pilot crew. As of this trip, I had 768 hours and 57 minutes of flight time on the equipment and 45 landings. By far the lowest of anyone on board. Funny enough, right here, Basan from TikTok, he knows me from TikTok, uh, recognized me. Thank you for saying hi to me. Shook hands with him for a few minutes. Very smart plan he has. He's currently at Piedmont. He picked Piedmont because it has the smallest fleet and the quickest flow time as a backup. Great plan. Great to meet you. And thank you for saying hi to me. But since I was so early, I had to have something to do. So I found a nice table to sit down and work on my videos. And of course, submitted the paperwork to get the Texas EV rebate. Again, if you buy or lease an electric car or a plug in hybrid in Texas, you get $2,500 cash. It is pretty good money. But eventually, the plane came in, was cleared by security, and they started cleaning it. So I was able to get on board. I was first to arrive and I started setting up my side of the flight deck. Again, as EFO, I'm in, of course, the EFO seat. My bag goes in the forward closet. I have a little manila folder there we use for all the paperwork we produce on a flight. You think we have EFBs, electronic flight bags, we have less paperwork? Oh no, we have so much paperwork that we print out for various things for every single flight, and we store it in the magic manila envelope. So on a 4 pilot crew, and there's 2 sets of pilots. There's a captain and first officer. I'm in an FO seat this time, and there's 2 more FOs, first officers, in the back of the flight deck called relief pilots. We're all up front for taxi, takeoff, and landing. But once we take off, the relief pilots, they bug out pretty quickly and they're on break. And then after their break, they come up front, and the FB will sit in the captain's seat. The FC, the second relief pilot, will sit in my seat, and then me and the captain go on break. And we do that. There's a total of 4 breaks for this flight to Asia, anyway. And also on the ground, the duties of the first officer are divided up. So I will take care of the seats forward. Another FO will take care of the seats backward and maybe the exterior pre-flight, and the other FO will take care of the beds, making the bunks for the whole crew. And then those two will swap at the outstation. In this case, Narita, where whoever made the beds will do the outside, and whoever did the outside will make the beds coming back to DFNW. Now, I've mentioned this in the past. It takes an incredible amount of people to get a flight out on time. It's not just the pilots and the mechanics and the flight attendants and the gate agents and the rampers. It is the fuelers, it is the caterers, the people that clean the airplane, it's the dispatchers, it's the people back in headquarters that do maintenance, operations control, procurement. That's a word I learned recently. There's so many people you don't ever meet that work every single day to get a flight out on time. And it's a great big team effort. And I truly appreciate all their efforts in helping me do my job. Now, as far as getting our clearance over to Narita, we get our clearance electronically from ATC. You can see it on the screen on the computer. And of course, we always print it out. And it just says clear to RJAA via the Logan 8 departure, automotive transition, then as filed. Climb via the SID, spec 50300, 10 minutes after departure, see departure frequency, see the SID, and squawk 7041. And you can see I accepted it on the bottom piece of paper. And as with many departures at DFW Airport, there are climbing restrictions, and we can't always make those if we are super heavy and super hot, or sometimes it's just super heavy. And on this day, we cannot make the 5,000 foot restriction. I'll show you what the departure looked like. Now, most really big airports have a departure procedure. This is an RNAV departure, meaning uses GPS, similar to your Google Maps. This is the Logan 8 RNAV departure, and it's primarily for flights going from DFW to the northwest. And that's how we're beginning our journey over to Narita. Now, you can see there's lines going from each side of the airport, to the left and to the right. Primarily, when we get this departure, we do get it from the west side of the airport. So 18 left, 18 right. Or if we're going northbound, 36 left or 36 right. Although it's possible to take off from the east side, it has to be pretty darn rare. Now, I mentioned a crossing restriction. So taking off to the south, we're going to first climb to the heading 176, then heading 193 over to B Park. And then we get to Yaml, and we have to be at most 240 knots and at least 5,000 feet in the sky. And that could be an issue. That's the only crossing restriction we have on this departure procedure. But there's more notes, right? I also said the departure frequency, we have C to SID, it is 126.475 for this runway. Now, top altitude, again, it is 10,000 feet. But we should expect 50300 10 minutes after departure. Now, how do we know if we can make that 5,000 foot restriction? Well, we have charts on my airline, plus the plane can tell you as well. So again, we did depart from the west side of the airport, the D terminal. Again, we talked to the ramp controller for pushback, and then the ramp controller clears to a spot, and then we call it to ground, and ground will give us from instruction from the spot over to the runway to go. In this case, it is over to runway 18 left. And during my initial interaction with ground, I'll let them know that we cannot make the crossing restriction, and they always give us a heading instead. So and on when it left, it's almost always fly heading 190, maintain 10,000 feet. And you can see the track there. It's about a 190 heading you can see. Now, you're going to see, I brought up the bottom portion here, my altitude and my speed, and you kind of guess where that B Park intersection was. It's just above the A in Arlington. So we're climbing up, and we're 1,800 feet, 1,900 feet. And the ground speed you see, that's not airspeed, of course. That's ground speed. Airspeed and ground speed are different. Ground speed is how fast we're moving across the ground. Airspeed is what our indicator reads. Anyways, you can see we're at 4,000 feet, and we're struggling to get to 5,000, and it would have been very, very close, within a few hundred feet, but it's not passing, right? And they had that restriction for a reason. There could be traffic at 4,500 feet headed down to the Arlington airport. So it's important that we give ATC accurate data and accurate information so they can make accommodations for other aircraft in our aircraft so we can safely have separation. But up and away we went, and we went over the over Canada toward the Alaska area. And again, we had 4 separate breaks on the way there. I don't remember where I was in any portion of the break until the last break, because around this portion here, when I slowed it down, I'm back up front and preparing to arrive in Narita. The controls there are very, very good. Minimal vectoring, and we came into runway 34 right for the approach. And well, you'll see I made a just okay landing. Now, I mentioned before about that 5,000 foot restriction at YAML. How do we know we can make that restriction? Well, the 777 has a predict ETA altitude function. You put in the altitude you want to be at, and it tells you where you'll be on your ND, your navigational display. It's all based on your climb power. By default, it's full climb, and you can see 5,000 is just past YAML. Climb 1, a little bit less power, it's a little bit further out. And then, of course, climb 2, it's even further out. Now, if we were to do like a TO2 takeoff, normally it defaults to climb 2. Now, when you take off, even if you're in climb 2, it'll go eventually to full climb as you're climbing up. So you might take off with climb 2, a reduced power setting, but eventually as you climb up, it'll go to full climb power. But that's how we know. Now, going down the runway, this is a, of course, recreation of similar takeoff weight. We are doing a full TL takeoff, which doesn't affect, again, the 5,000 foot restriction. But once we're off the ground, they give us a heading of 190. I'm single pilot, so I'll turn the autopilot on. Heading 190, then I'll throw the autopilot on. Now, the distance we go is all dependent on how fast we go. If I were to stay at 200 knots with the flaps out, I could probably make the restriction. I should probably ask an air traffic controller, what would you prefer? Me to be at 5,000 feet and slow, or be at that fixed at 250 knots? And again, if we didn't say anything and we did not make that restriction, there could be traffic but under us headed to Arlington, and that could cause an issue. So I make big notes on my notepad, ask for relief if it's even close to not being able to make it. And if we're going to Asia, it doesn't matter. We're not going to make it. And at 300 going to London, you can normally make it, at least in the wintertime, from my experience. So a few hours into the flight, somewhere over, I think it was Western Canada or the state of Washington, I went back on break. And I'm pretty habitual with the way I do my breaks. I have my little small bag, call it my man purse. It's my in-flight bag. It has all my electronics in it, my Nintendo Switch, my laptop, my power cables, my eye mask, snacks, hand sanitizer, yada yada yada. Get into the seat. I set my clock to the appropriate how long the break is, and I do it like minus 15 minutes. That way, before the break's over, I can be awake, ready to go, clean up my area, and get ready to go back up front. But I get into my seat, and I am very cold natured. So you can see I'm wearing a black pullover, and in the normal bunk area on the 200, we have 2 sets of blankets per pilot. So I use both those blankets in my seat area to stay warm. And you can see behind me, they have a mattress pad now on our airplanes, and it greatly increases passenger comfort. And they recently made it standard on all long haul flights that if you are in a premium cabin, you do get the mattress pad on the seat, and it makes it so much more comfortable to sleep on your back or side on these seats. And I sleep now much better in these seats than I would do in our bunk area, at least on the 200s. On our 300s, we have a whole loft area up above, which normally they only go to London out of Dallas, but soon they'll be going. Right now, they're going also to Madrid, and next year they're going to uh, Haneda, Japan, as well. But slept pretty good on my first break, and then on my second break, I slept even better, and I did wake up a little bit earlier, and I watched the Pluribus thing on Apple TV. Really interesting show, and you can see it by the map here. We are approaching. We're already by Japan and get ready to start down to land in Narita. Nice bright orange lights in the cabin. So let's talk about the approach into Tokyo Narita Airport. We're doing the ILS Yankee 3-4 right approach, and I made the notes really big because they're pretty important, especially on this approach. So number one, VOR DME required. That's kind of normal. For initial approach segment, radar service is required, meaning they have to help you get into it. And it's likely because the fix of Tyler and Elgar are RNAV fixes that you can't identify via a DME anyway. You could via Temis. Anyways, going number three, they can do this approach with 3-4 left at the same time. But look at number four. Gear down operation during an approach to 3-4 left, 3-4 right. In order to prevent ice blocks falling from aircraft onto ground, all flights making an approach to 3-4 left and 3-4 right from the seashore are required to complete gear down and locked before reaching the 11-point DME fix for 3-4 left and 3-4 right, as far as the safety of the flight is not compromised. That is a unique note that you don't see very often on approach charts. I'm assuming something happened once. There are several houses along the coast, and I guess some ice blocks fell at one time, and they don't want that to ever happen again. As far as the briefing goes, it's pretty standard for me. This is the Alice Yankee 3-4 right approach into Tokyo Narita Airport. Frequency is 110.9. Approach course is 337. We're crossing Crown at 3,000 feet, going down to Barrow Mend at 391. That is 250 feet above the ground. When we get down there, we're looking for a PALS Cat 1 approach lighting system with a PAPI on the right-hand side of the runway. Because again, I say the right-hand side of the runway because it could be right or left, and saying it's on the right will help us identify the correct runway, because sometimes many airports have runways multiple in the same direction. So by giving as many clues as possible, especially in a low visibility environment, by briefing where the PAPI should be, it helps get a clue in sometimes if we're having a crazy crosswind and identifying the correct runway. Now, if we don't get there, we don't see what we need to see, well, we're going to misapproach and climb at 700 feet on a heading of 337. That's the runway heading. Then turn right heading 140, intercept and proceed outbound via the NRE 095 radial to Baspa and hold at 8,000 feet into contact Tokyo approach. But thankfully, we don't have to do that today, as we'll be landing on the runway. There are two runways at Tokyo Narita Airport, 3-4 left and 3-4 right, and the associated 1-6 right and 1-6 left. The longer runway is about 13,100 feet long, while the shorter one is about 8,200 feet long. And the longer one is primarily for takeoff, the shorter one is primarily for landing, and that's what we're using today. So you can see the LDA, the land distance available, is 802 feet long, same as the total runway available is 8,202. Sometimes those numbers are different due to a displaced threshold where you can use it for takeoff, but not for landing. But we're landing on 3-4 right, and this runway is totally fine for a 777-200. There's lots of chart notes available you can go through, and we do go through to make sure there's no restrictions on aircraft size or certain taxiways we can't turn off on, hints about taxiway, taxi instructions, and that kind of thing. But this is all read through way before landing, so there are no surprises. Now, I can't make the Bravo 5 high-speed exit. That's a bit too short for a 777, but I could easily make Bravo 4 or Bravo 2 high-speed exit. And a high-speed exit is just an angled taxiway. So I'm going to aim for Bravo 4. That should be plenty of time to land, apply thrust reverse, brake smoothly, and exit the runway and begin our taxi to the gate. So here we are flying on the approach this afternoon into Narita. I'm already at flaps 1, 220 knots, and about a 16-mile final for runway 3-4 right. And I'm going to have the gear down by the 13.6 DME off of the localizer ITJ. So I have a little bit to get the gear down. Descending on VNAV path. So I'm at 5,000 feet until I get to the first fix of Timus, and then it's 3,000 feet to Crown, where I can intercept the glide slope officially at that fix. But of course, first things first, here comes the shoreline. I need to get the gear down to comply with their restriction. So again, normally I put the gear down closer to like 2,000 feet above the ground. Here we are, 4,500 feet above the ground. We are way higher than the normal AGL that I put the gear down. But gear goes down now. To comply with the restriction, there is a shoreline, so gear will be fully down and locked by the DMB fix, and I can begin slowing down. Now, I'm still in VNAV path using the airplane to descend to meet all the crossing restrictions, but the white diamond, as the glide slope, is right behind the magenta diamond of VNAV. So I could just go ahead and arm approach mode and keep an eye on things and descend via the glide slope and then lock onto the localizer for the lateral portion. Either one works just fine. So in a moment, I will go ahead and arm the approach button, well, activate the approach button, at which time it'll grab the glide slope and the localizer, and then I can go ahead and set my missed approach altitude of 8,000 feet. Once the plane has captured the glide slope, it'll ignore the altitude pre-select window. So I can put whatever I want there, and it'll ignore it because it's not active anymore. It's following the glide slope, and it'll follow the glide slope until I intervene otherwise. Again, it'll fall all the way to the ground. Even if the runway and the approach doesn't support auto land, the plane will still follow the glide slope until it is told to do something else. But go ahead and put 180 knots in and again start slowing. I'm only at flaps 5. This is a very weird approach to have the gear down at flaps 5. Normally on a approach, I'll have flaps 15, at most flaps 20 before I put the gear down. If you go beyond flaps 20, let's like flaps 25, then you get a landing gear configuration warning because like, hey, why are you putting so many flaps out if you don't have the gear down yet? Wake up, pilot. So again, we're descending on the glide slope and on the localizer. I'm going to go ahead and speed up the approach because it's just following it all the way down from this point on. And you'll see the flaps coming out more. Here's flaps 15. And you'll get more and more flaps as we go. And we're now at 4 times normal speed just to get things rolling. And the autopilot stays on for me. My personal thing is normally until I'm clear to land, I leave the autopilot on. That's just another cue for me, like, hey, autopilot's still on. I'm a FO. We haven't been clear to land yet. That's just my general rule of thumb. That's one of the many cues I use to make sure we're clear to land. Because again, we go on to these 20, 25-mile finals. It's like, hey, are we clear to land? I think we are. And that's the difference in the United States versus outside the United States. Inside the United States, I'll be clear to land even though there's 4 other planes ahead of me. Outside the United States, I'm not clear to land until the runway is clear, and then I'm cleared to land. But you can see we fly in over portions of the airport because it's a much shorter runway. You can see the terminal off to the left, and I'll slow it down here in just 1 second. So we're back to normal speed. Again, you can see the terminal off to the left, and we're coming in over the parking area to land on runway 34 right. This scenery doesn't show all the farmland. There's many people that have their farms on the airport. They're grandfathered in. The airport didn't force them out when they built the airport or expanded the airport anyway. Great series on YouTube about that. If you search Narita farmland, our farmers, you'll see the history of that. But here we are on very short final. Autopilot is already turned off. Slight crosswind from the left. Sorry for the weird runway visuals here. I mixed X-Plane 11 and 12 scenery, and well, this is what I get. But keep it coming down, and around 50 feet, I'll think about flaring. Right around 30 feet, I will begin to flare, do the slight crosswind correction, close to the runway, and we will be down in the touchdown zone. Now, my actual landing was a little bit better than this. Wasn't great. It was a very, very average landing. I didn't like how I ate up more runway than I thought I would, but I decelerated just fine, and we came to a safe taxi speed by the Bravo 4 high-speed exit, and we were done. So after both the shutdown checklist and the secure checklist, I began cleaning up my area. Again, I've been, on this airplane now for 14 hours plus. I have a lot of crap everywhere, and on my side of the flight deck anyway. So I go through, make sure I have all my stuff put away, all my nooks and crannies that I use. I make sure I go through and get all my stuff, pack it up, and we head out of the door. One thing I do like about Narita, they use the front and the L1 and L2 doors for deplaning. It helps the plane go by very quickly. Grab all my crap, head out the door, and up to the dated but very nice red carpet of the Tokyo airport. Now, whether you're crew or just a regular visitor to any airport in Japan, you get a little yellow card. Make sure you don't lose that card. That's your exit card. That's your tourist card. And again, I love how quiet the airports are in Asia, both here and in Seoul, Korea. Just listen to how quiet it is. No big announcements, no PAs, just peaceful. And I've been here several times, so me getting from the baggage claim to the bus is pretty easy. Got on the bus, head to the hotel, and now for a quick briefing, tour of the room, and now for the debrief. Tired. Currently 5:49 p.m. local, 2:49 a.m. in DFNW Dallas. Good flight over here for the most part. I took the leg over. And I flew the captain, according to my records, the union records, last year, I believe. Nice guy. He's very, very quiet. Didn't want to talk much. It's just fine to me. It's just a nice, quiet flight. Uh, we hit some pretty good turbulence on the flight. Nothing crazy by Alaska, well, before Alaska. But then during our shift, it was our second shift up front. Second shift up front? Yeah. No, it was our first shift up front. I have no idea what shift it was. No, it was our second shift. Yeah. Our second shift up front. We took off. We got multiple warnings from ATC and our dispatcher of planes entering severe turbulence next to Russia, between Russia and uh, Alaska airspace, or Russia and Alaska, not the airspace. I'll show you on a map where it is. But they're all in the low 30s to mid 30s flight levels, right? Well, we were at 36, climbing 38 just because we could. Glad we did, because 38 was not so bad as far as the reports go. But we're getting like nonstop reports of flights entering severe turbulence. And we heard them on the radio, and their ATC asking, have you any damage, anyone injured? And said no, but multiple reports of severe turbulence. So we're like, well, we're at 38, and each time we got a report, we plotted on the map because they're giving us latitude longitude fixes, and we were either north of it or we were above it. Now, precautionary, we told the flight attendants to remain seated for about half an hour, and we hit turbulence, but it wasn't. Ours was at most light, chopped, a little bit, maybe a moderate jolt, but nothing sustained. So lucky us. When we finished our second shift, and went to the back. I was in the chair both times. I think I told you that. And then we came back up front for landing, and the winds are just crazy here. Winds were like 250 at 180 knots on the nose for the most part. You know, it was a quartering headwind. Winds over Asia, just nuts coming off the coast of Asia. Always nuts. Good thing for tomorrow, but a little bit of a language barrier. We got a different arrival than we normally. We got the Supak Tango, not the Golf. And we thought we get 3-4 left, we got 3-4 right, and I made a very landing. Like it was flaps 25. We weren't that heavy. Wind down the runway at 2 knots, and I just, I was on glide slope to about 100 feet. Then I got a little high, and I said, okay, I'm a little high. I'm gonna just hold this pitch. And then I didn't even start flaring until 30 feet because I knew I was a little high, right? So I did a late flare, and wasn't firm, wasn't bad. It was just It was further down the runway than I wanted it to be though. So there's that. But got to the gate. We're late, is what it is. The guys wanted to go to the jet lag club. I'm not really in the mood for that. I just want dinner, so I'm going to go to the Ark for dinner, and then be done. I told them I was going to Nepalese food. No one seemed interested in Nepalese food. So, yeah. But let's go to dinner. Could be in Boston right now. I like it here. And I changed my overnight shirt from the other maroon shirt. I figure I should change my shirt every now and then. All right, let's go to dinner. So the rest of the crew wanted to go to the jet lag club and then get food. If I had one sip of alcohol, I'd fall asleep right away. Yeah, I could have gone with them, but I'm like, I'm still get food and be done. Many of the hotels offer free bus service to downtown Narita and to the airport and to the mall. This is downtown Narita, a nice area, again, very, very quiet. And I made my way to the ARC, ARC. Now, ironically, it is right across the street from the Jet Lag Club, but I just had no desire to have a beer at all. Yeah, I could have gone with them and not had a beer, but I was hungry and tired, so all I wanted to do was eat and go to bed. I purposely did not have my last meal on board so I could save my calories and ruin my stomach to just have the meal from the Ark, which I've been to twice before, so I've been here a few times. Again, much like the airport, is a very peaceful area to walk around. No loud exhaust, no loud stereos, just people going about their day. Very, very quiet, nice area. Now, it is cold outside. I have on my heated vest on top of my clothes, and then I have a jacket on top of that. And to keep my hands warm, I'm using these little electronic hand warmers. I'm a very cold natured person. I don't like being cold, so I bring lots of stuff with me to make sure I can stay warm. The Ark, I've been here a few times again, and I always eat the same thing every time I come here. I'm a creature of habit. If I find something good, I'll go there forever as long as I don't get sick. And the first two times I had great service. This time, the food was okay and fine, but the service, the normal lady who's there wasn't there. It was just two guys, and it was just okay service. But I got their special set, has like a bunch of meat and bread and dessert. So it's I think it's a good value. I believe I had chicken curry and prawn curry, and I think I got like level 3 spice, so it was pretty good. Then you can see all the chicken and the piece of sausage and the naan and the salad. And then I'm watching YouTube. I did order a mango smoothie, I think it was, for the drink. Took a little while to get it. I had to remind them twice, and then again, this is me and one other person in the whole restaurant, so they weren't really busy. Finished my meal, didn't have my dessert this time. I was too full, and I was ready to head back to the hotel. So a little bummed. That was my third time there, and the previous times I was there, great service. Uh, the woman that was the waitress, maybe the owner, I'm not sure, but this time it was just two men in there. They both seemed to be cooks, and yeah, not the best service. Food was okay, but I asked for my mango lassi, didn't get it till food was already there, and then I never got my ice cream. And I sat there for 10 minutes, and they never came out or anything. And maybe that's the culture, I don't know, but that's unfortunate. All right, back to the hotel. Now all the shuttles run on a schedule, and I could take my shuttle or the hotel next door. But either one, I'd be waiting out here in the cold for a while, and I'm like, again, if you know me, I hate cold. So I dumped into the McDonald's, got a coffee to stay warm. It wasn't gonna help me stay awake at all because once you get past exhaustion, adding caffeine doesn't help. Now, one issue in Asia is the lack of trash cans. There are no trash cans anywhere. And the bus says no food or drinks on board. So I'm like, well, I don't want to be a rude person. So I had to put my cup into my bag and then I threw it away at the hotel. But maybe the way back to the hotel and then I called the wife because it was the beginning of her work day. Well, for me, you can see I'm laying in bed. It is the end of my work day. But had a good night's rest, had breakfast in the morning, and then I went out to explore. So again, I am bundled up. I got lots of layers on, but I go by this house when I'm in Narita. It's an American style house next to the road, and I can't figure out why it's there. And again, it's just this house next to the highway, and it looks like maybe they were trying to start a development, and it just stopped. Not quite sure, but it was a beautiful day in Narita. Cold. It was cold, but a beautiful day, and it's a nice long walk. Again, I could take the bus to the city center or to the mall, but I need to close my rings. I sit down on airplanes for a long time. And I talked to a flight attendant one day. She said she could never be a pilot because we sit down too long. She says with her job, she can move around. Like even if she's tired, she'll walk the aisles, up and down the aisles, and have her body moving. Versus when we're pilots, when we're up front, we're just sitting a lot. And when we're on break, right? And I guess I could walk around if I wanted to, but she could never be a pilot because she doesn't like sitting as much as we do. But I walked quite a ways, and I like taking photos of the absurd. And I stopped every now and then, took a picture of silly, what I consider silly American signs in Japan. Here is the Bronco Billy Grill Steakhouse, sitting on the side of the road in Narita, right by the Aeon Mall. Eventually, I made it to the Aeon Mall. Again, if you ever are in Narita on a layover, Narita is very neat to visit. The temple is very nice. If you've never been there before, and this mall is very nice. It's a very, very modern mall, giant food court, and of course, in the mall, I found more silly stores like American Holic. Why? It's funny, and I bet people from Asian cultures and other parts of the world laugh at Americans and other cultures when they have their own writing in the other language. Like when you see Japanese or Chinese writing, I bet it doesn't say what you think it is, especially when people get tattoos on them. And so I'll see these shirts in Japan that have American words on them that don't really make any sense, but I bet we have the exact same kind of clothing that has Japanese writing on it that makes no sense at all. Anyways, walk through an arcade. They have the giant arcades, and it's an arcade, and they also have those Pachislo slot machines, I believe they're called. I'm not brave enough to play one. They involve like little pinballs or something. And they also have a lot of these skill machines, like the claw grabber things, a ton of the claw grabber machines, like a lot. But I walked around the mall, had my fill, got all my rings closed, and then I did take the bus back to the hotel. And on the way back, we always stop by, or we drive by this Christmas hotel. Find it very interesting why they have a whole hotel dedicated to Christmas in Japan. Anyways, back here's my little discussion before I take my nap. And so okay, and back in the room, almost noon. I'm gonna have my quick snack. Did buy an egg salad sandwich from 7-Eleven, some grapes, and a lemonade I got from the mall. Eat this, pack up the room, take a shower, and go to bed for a nap, and then wake up and head to the airport. All right. It's in the 3 o'clock hour here in Narita. It is in the midnight hour in Dallas. Had about a 2 hour nap. Feel okay. I just thought about this. I haven't had a flying pilot trip out of here in a while. Normally I'm the relief pilot, and the difference really is, as relief pilot, you show up, you do the pre-flight, we take off, and you go on break right away. Flying pilot shows up, we take off, we fly for a couple hours, and then go on break. Bit different as far as how awake you want to be. Um, as a flying pilot, I had some coffee just now. That's fine. As a relief pilot, I would never do that because I had to go on break right away. So it's different, depending on which seat you're in. But break, the overnight was fine. Didn't do anything exciting, right? It's a little chilly here. Um, but I appreciate the credit value of it. And again, I could have been in London right now. I think I would be in London right now. And that was worth 10 minutes more. But on paper, it was a 5-day trip. In reality, I would have been home Thursday late at night if we got back from London on time. But also on time, the plane is already blocked in here in Narita, so I got in early. So we should be leaving here on time and getting home either early or on time. I looked at the last few days and the routing they went, and if you went like on my Korea trip last week, we had to go up to the coast of Russia over to Alaska to come in. A few flights had on the normal straight out over the Pacific Ocean, come in over Oregon, California, depending on the routing situation. Hopefully we go straight across. Yeah, some good tailwinds. But yeah, I think I will hopefully have some time to get my wife some chocolate from the airport, and let's get out of Japan. Good times. I will always appreciate how in Asia you press the button and it tells you what elevator's gonna open up right away. Headed downstairs and hopped on the bus. I do always joke that I save money going to Japan since it is considered rude to tip the van driver, so I don't tip the van drivers. Not too bad of a drive over to the airport. Again, it's a beautiful day in Narita, Japan. And we pull up to Terminal 2. The van driver unloads our bags very nicely. Again, they're extremely nice. Everyone in Japan, they're an extremely nice culture overall. Grabbed our bags, went inside, went through the very pleasant security. Again, so much nicer than London. And then I was on a quest. So my family likes chocolate. At least my oldest and my wife like chocolate. And they have it's called Royce chocolate. Now, you can either buy it that is in the refrigerated section and needs dry ice, or they also have chocolate bars. I've bought both. I think my wife prefers the bars over the refrigerated section, at least from my experience anyway. So, because I think in the refrigerator, she forgets about it. So, down past our gate, I go to this nice little gift shop, and they have a ton of sweets and chocolate. Myself, I don't care for chocolate very much, but you see, that's the whole refrigerator section. I'm like, maybe I should. Mm, yeah, I think I will. No, no, I'll just get the actual bars. So I got my wife a bar of well, 2 bars of Royce chocolate, and then I got my oldest this other chocolate concoction thing. And if you do buy the refrigerator stuff, they will sell you a thing of dry ice, a very small thing of dry ice to keep it cold. That's okay. Headed over to the gate. Now, this is an older airport. It's teeny tiny little elevator to go downstairs because the airport was designed before we had rolling bags, I'm guessing. But down the jet bridge, down the red carpet, and onto the airplane to get settled in for the much shorter flight back to Dallas Fort Worth. Now, I have flown in many parts of the world, Japan, I've flown in Hong Kong, Korea, then, of course, South America, and over Europe. And one thing I really appreciate about in Japan especially is the Japanese controllers and the Japanese pilots speak English to each other. I've never heard them speak Japanese. And again, English is the official language of aviation around the world, but it's common in Latin America, in France, and Italy to hear them speaking their native tongue over the radio. And when they do that, it puts every other pilot out of the loop. But in Japan, they only speak English. And I appreciate that for many reasons, but one, so I can keep in the loop, especially when there's weather or something is going on. We're all on the same page. There's been a lot of weather over the Atlantic Ocean lately, and for my last 3 flights from Asia, we've had to go up and over near Alaska to come back and coming in over the Washington State versus go straight across like we did in the past. And that is, again, to avoid all of the turbulence. All of the orange area you see, that's turbulence, and we do our best to avoid it. Again, turbulence is more annoying than it is unsafe. We can fly through it, but it's not very comfortable. And thankfully, with the tailwinds, we're able to go around it and still get to DFW on time. But on the flight back, again, I had 2 breaks. Again, I like my breaks. I used to fly, 7, 8 hours a day at my regional and even on the Airbus. I really like my fly 3, 4 hours at the most and take a 3 to 4 hour break. But made it back to DF and W. Captain made a much better landing than I did. Shut the airplane down, turned the lights down, grabbed my bags, cleared customs, and headed out of the door. And speaking of clearing customs, they've gotten much faster with their processing, especially for like global entry. The pictures, they take the pictures and they identify me so much faster than they did even a few months ago. It's a very nice perk to have. And again, my airline pays for my global entry access. And I actually make money on the deal because my airline pays for it, and so does my credit card. So not too bad. But hopped on the sketchy employee bus, out to my car, and now for the debrief.
All right, it is 3:17, headed home. Arrived a few minutes late. I'm sure I covered a lot of this. Departed Narita on time. Long taxi to 16 right. Standard-ish departure. I find it funny that we got handed over to San Francisco radio while we're still next to Russia. Like it goes way out there. Pilot monitoring, did the paperwork, made the radio calls. Captain's pretty quiet. If I talked to him, he talked back, but he didn't really bring up any subjects, fine with me, whatever. They decided to do equal breaks, meaning 2 hour and 40 minutes per break per pilot, per set of pilots. And when I came back from the Incheon, it was 3 hours, and split the rest. If we had done that, we had like 3 hour, maybe a 2 hour and 10 minute break per person, whatever the math works out to be. It's fine. I just sleep in the chair both directions. The captain said, "Hey, you sure you don't want the bunk?" And I do go to the bunk half the time, right? And I'm like, you know what? I am a side sleeper by nature, and at home I have a super soft mattress. It's from Avocado. It's a couple years old, but it's super soft. And so sleeping on my side isn't that big of a deal. When I was heavier, 280 pounds, when I first started losing my weight, I wake up with intense shoulder pain, and it would last all morning long from sleeping on my side, even on a super soft mattress. And the bunks on the airplane, they are not super soft mattresses. And due to the orientation of the bunk, I sleep on my right-hand side. If I sleep on the left-hand side, I face the wall, and that's just weird to me. So, anyways, I wake up with shoulder-ish pain in the bunk situation, right? So I sleep in the chair, and because I sleep with headphones on, and then the airline headphones on top of that for extra noise protection, I can't sleep on my side in the chair. So I've forced myself to learn how to sleep on my back, and it's been working well. I slept a solid 2 hours on each break, so I think I might be curing myself of sleeping in the bunks on a 200 anyway. On a 300, we have no choice with the bunks. We have a chair, I guess, upstairs, but there's that. But yeah, came in the DFW area, got slowed down quite a bit. Captain made a great landing, and we were done. I did get all my bags, thankfully, off the airplane. And that will do it for this trip to Narita. I was very lucky to get this trip because my seniority. My flight attendant, my number one, very nice lady. She has been here 53 years. 53 years of seniority. And extremely, extremely nice. And I say that they all should be nice, but she was overly nice. Like, she kept checking up on me while I was in the bunk area. It's very pleasant to be around. So very nice talking to her, but she was not the most senior on the trip. Another lady, I think, had 55 years of seniority, which is crazy to think about. Like, I was born in 1977. They were hired 5 years before that. Pretty cray cray. But yeah, that will do it for this trip, and I will send it over to Darren to wrap it all up. Thank you for your support. So that was Narita. Now, again, if I could go to Asia 3 times a month, I'd be set for the rest of my career. Again, they are so much more efficient trips. Narita, not as much as Incheon, but still, 26 hours of credit over 3 days is pretty darn good. Again, compared to London, which is 19 hours of credit. And it helps that I'm based in Dallas-Fort Worth in the middle of the country, because if I were on, say, the West Coast, we do LA to Haneda, it's worth much less than it is Dallas to Haneda. But even for European flights, the East Coast to Europe is worth like 15 to 16 hours versus my 19 hours. So being based in Dallas definitely does help the pocketbook and the credit values. Now, again, as far as the trip goes, 26 hours and 60 minutes worth of credit. I was paid 89 for my hourly wages, 133 for my international pay, and 76 for my per diem. Time away from base was, as you can see, 53 hours and 43 minutes. I can't hold these trips, but via the normal bidding process, I can only get them by keeping an eye on open time and trying my best to trade into them. As of this recording, I have been to Incheon twice in the last 2 months and Narita just once. I look forward to next year when we fly the 777-300 from Dallas to Haneda. We can stay in actually Tokyo proper and not out in Narita. Again, I love Narita. I've been to the temple and the Aeon Mall enough that I can go to Tokyo now for real. My name is Darren. I'm a dad. I'm an airline pod. I'm a husband of a scientist. If you don't mind, please click subscribe, drop a comment, click like. Have a great day. And as always, thank you for stopping by.